Hello and welcome to Top Gear India. My name is Gavin Rodriguez and I'm in the beautiful state of Uttarakhand, here in the jungles of Rishikesh to drive the all-new Toyota Hilux. Well, the Hilux has been around for about a year now and Toyota is finally kind enough to let us drive the car. So here we are to drive the all-new Hilux. And now the Hilux has been around since 1968. It's been around for 5 decades now and seen 8 generations. What you see here next to me is the 8th generation of the Hilux. Now the name Hilux comes from high performance luxury, and that's sort of what Toyota hopes that the Hilux will bring together. The Hilux has sold of around 20 million units globally. It's sold in about 180 countries, out of which it's the best seller in 16 of those 180 countries. I think we happen to be 181. This is based on the same IMV platform that the Innova Krista is, and so is the Fortuner. So again, a lot to look forward to with the Toyota Hilux. We have about 4 hours with the car today, so I hope you're just as excited as I am to see what the Hilux is capable of. The Toyota Hilux is built on the IMV platform, which you can also find on the old Innova Krista and the current gen Fortuner. Well, the advantage of the IMV platform is that it has a tougher frame with exceptional torsion and bending rigidity. Well, at least that's what Toyota says, and I think everyone that's ever driven an Innova or a Fortuner will swear by the toughness and the ruggedness of their vehicles. On the outside, the Toyota Hilux looks as butch and imposing as you'd expect any pickup truck to look like. Dimensionally, it's not exactly smaller than the Isuzu D-Max. It's slightly longer, but the Isuzu D-Max is a bit wider and a bit taller. The Hilux looks quite imposing when you look at it out on the street, and I don't think photos do good enough justice to just how big this car looks in person. You get 3 variants from the Hilux. The first variant is the standard MT, which is made for business applications. You get a high MT and you get a high automatic. So you have the option between a manual or an automatic. What we're driving here today is the automatic. Personally, I think the Toyota Hilux looks quite handsome. It's got a familiar fascia, the one that you'd find on the Krista, but the rest of it looks quite muscular and quite butch and imposing. I don't think you'd even have to use the horn when you're on the street, because most people would notice this car in the rearview mirror and just step out of the way. All in all, I do think that the Hilux looks quite premium and slightly better than the Isuzu D-Max in my opinion. Well, if you were to compare it with the all-new Isuzu D-Max, which hasn't launched to India yet, now that would be a much harder choice, because I think I'd lean with the new Isuzu D-Max. But as of now, I think the Hilux is probably the sexiest pickup truck that you can currently get in India. Okay, so now we're going to take on some off-road obstacles. We've got the negative side incline over here. So set the Hilux into 4 low, and yeah, okay, we're going to start this. I know the ground's not that far off, you know, but what a cool sensation. All right, so next we have something called the Mughal. And this one's particularly a bit unnerving, but I have faith in the Hilux. Now, despite being about 5 meters in length, the Toyota Hilux is quite a capable car off-road. It's got an approach angle of 29 degrees and a departure angle of 26 degrees. So, just to show you how capable the Hilux is, as you can tell, this is not something that most cars can do. But the Hilux makes it look like it's a piece of cake. Whoop, that was close. But just like that, the Hilux managed to take most obstacles. I doubt most owners would ever venture this far into the wild to encounter such obstacles, but in case you ever do, know that the Hilux comes well equipped, and this is in stock format, so that's quite commendable. With up to 700 mm of water weighting capacity. Well, you could say that you're ready for Bombay's monsoons for sure, but you're ready for most trails and adventures during monsoon too. And here is one example of the Hilux doing about 700 mm of depth. And whoa, be careful. But yeah, it's pretty cool. especially knowing that this car is built for Bombay during our monsoon weather. So yeah, look forward to driving this around Bombay when it starts to rain. So, the Toyota Hilux is powered by the same 2.8-litre diesel engine that we see in the Fortuner. It produces about 206, 205 bhp of power and about 500 Newton meters of torque in this automatic variant and 420 Newton meters of torque in the manual variant. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to push the car to its limits. We've been driving on rather narrow roads and mostly off-road, so I haven't really had the freedom to really allow the Hilux to stretch its legs. But despite that, I can tell you that this car, the kind of power it has, the kind of torque it has, it performs splendidly off-road. And I think it's more than sufficient for on-road use. The kind of fuel efficiency I have been seeing driving off-road so far is about 11 kilometers per liter. But I'm sure if you're driving on the highway and you're driving a lot more reserved, I'm pretty sure you can extract as much as 14, maybe 15 kilometers per liter. So that's quite nice. Now, the driving experience of the Hilux is the way you would expect a truck to be. You're sitting quite tall. You're basically towering over everyone else. So in terms of suspension, now the Hilux is rather softly sprung. I mean, to be fair, the car is meant to be carrying some load in order for it to be a bit more stable. But with the mass, with the suspension not being loaded, it's a bit bouncy and wallowy, and you can really feel like right now, I can feel expansion joints going over, whereas surprisingly I could barely feel rocks some time ago when I was going off-road. So it's a weird thing. I feel like once you load the suspension, the car will ride a lot better and be a lot more stable. But if you're going to be driving alone and you don't have a lot of load, then yeah, get used to the bumpy ride. Now brakes. Brakes on the Hilux perform really well. The progressive, the slow, they're not something that give you instant bite, but they're progressive enough that they allow you to play with the brakes. And today while driving it off-road, I found the brakes quite accommodating to my driving style. Maybe at higher speeds I would require better bite, but this is not the kind of vehicle that is going to be doing top speed. It's mostly going to be cruising and going along, and for that I think the brakes do just fine. NVH levels are quite decent. It's a diesel motor, so you can really hear the engine in the background. It's not going to be pin drop silence, so that's something you may have to adapt or get used to. But again, I feel like the kind of performance it brings and the kind of luxury it brings, the luxury aspect to me is adequate. The performance to me is the real seller. So if you're coming at it from a luxury bias perspective, then yeah, you know, maybe not the right kind of vehicle for you. But if you're the kind of person who likes to venture into the unknown and just likes a pinch of luxury in there mixed in with it, I think this vehicle is quite nice for that. And visibility and practicality is great. I wish Toyota would have given this a 360 camera, would have made it a lot easier to sort of maneuver this car around, even off-road for that matter. But I guess that's something we can wait for future iterations to bring about. Everything all in all is pretty comfortable. There's no ventilated seats, which I think could have been added for a vehicle that's meant to be out in the wilderness so much, but I guess for people that are more outdoorsy, you may as well find comfort in discomfort. But otherwise, this car is a really comfortable place to be. You know, there's nothing really else to complain about. The interior is a bit stale if you're used to seeing what the current Fortuner or what the previous Innova was like. It's kind of the same deal, and most owners will probably not even stick to most bits on the interior and probably just swap them with aftermarket units and whatnot. So yeah, you can't really complain about the interior because this is just what Toyota does. It's very minimal. But what will be very commendable is the reliability and the low cost of ownership. And I think that is something where the Toyota kind of has an edge over the Isuzu, right? It has a much better service network. And Toyota as a brand and as a manufacturer is a bit more, how do I put this? It's a bit more digestible to put about north of 30 lakhs on a pickup truck if it has a more reliable badge to go with it, right? And I think that's something that Toyota does. So I'm really looking forward to driving this car when we're back in Bombay. But as of now, we're here in Dehradun, and so far it was a lovely off-road experience, and I look forward to driving this car when I get back home. So stay tuned to the Top Gear India YouTube channel. So we've spent about 4.5 hours with the Hilux so far, and most of it was on terrain like this, in situations like this. So we didn't exactly get to put the Hilux in its space. In fact, I don't think we ever exceeded third gear or fourth gear for that matter, or ever exceeded the speed of about 40 kilometers per hour. So I cannot tell you what the Hilux is like on the road. I can tell you what it's like off-road, and off-road it is extremely capable. It's quite brilliant given that most of the car, I mean, it's all stock, right? And knowing that it's so capable of stock and it can take you this far and this into the wild and back home safely in one piece really is quite commendable. So in terms of practicality, it's got tons of storage space. I didn't get a chance to sit in the back seat, but from what I could tell, it's not built for people as tall as me, maybe slightly shorter, they'd be good to go. The rear seat doesn't really recline, so that could be an issue if you're particular about that. But apart from that, this is a lifestyle vehicle, you know. It's built for a specific lifestyle. Conveniences come secondary, I think. Its potential is mainly to succeed off-road and venture into the unknown. And when it comes to all of that, the Hilux does a fantastic job.